Hello, everyone. This is Dave, and I am going to start a new short listening series 15 minutes of Factfulness. Factfulness is a book that came out recently by Hans Rosling with Ola Rosling and Anna Rosling Ronlund. Um, my wife heard about this on social media. I think it was read by several famous people, such as Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, and I think even Barack Obama. I have yet to read it. I got this off of Amazon.co.jp, and it's quite nice. This is a library edition, so it's not only a hardcover, but a very robust hardcover. And I don't know why they were selling that. Somehow, I think it was actually cheaper than a regular edition, but hopefully it will last longer. I have the Japanese edition as well, which my wife bought to read, and neither of us has read any of it. Well, my wife read a couple pages, but I have yet to read a single page. So this is just going to be listening practice for my students, and I may pause for questions, and I'll try to edit it together in a colorful, interesting, and educational way. I ate a power bar not long ago. I teach my students a lot of idioms, and one idiom that they recently learned was warts and all. And for people who don't know, that is having something without correcting any of the mistakes, without photoshopping away any imperfections. So I have a little bit of vanilla power bar in the back of my teeth, and it might affect my reading a little bit, but this is not a professional for-profit recording. This is just for listening, so let's give it a shot. I'm also going to drink some green tea now and again. If people have very good eyesight, behind me you can see Kinnikuman. That is a tissue dispenser that was given to me 2 universities ago, and it has never once held tissues. It has just always been a decoration. Here is Andre the Giant action figure. I can't remember if my wife actually bought it for me. I remember we saw it together and debated whether or not I should get it, but in the end I got it. So I don't know if I bought it myself or if she got it as a gift. You can't really see it, but there's a picture of me sniffing cherry blossoms in Brooklyn Botanical Gardens. But this is my library of books as it now stands in my university office. But anyways, let's read about the authors. Hans Rosling was a medical doctor, professor of international health, and renowned public educator. He was an advisor to the World Health Organization and UNICEF, and he co-founded Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders in English, in Sweden, and the Gapminder Foundation. I don't know what that is about, but in the UK, when you enter a train, they always say, mind the gap. There's a recording that says, mind the gap, which means look out for the space between the train and the platform so that you don't fall and hurt yourself. His TED Talks have been viewed more than 35 million times, and he was listed as one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people in the world. Hans died in 2017. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I didn't know he had passed away, having devoted the last years of his life to writing this book. Now I feel like it's precious. I've always felt that books are precious, but knowing that it was the culminating project of his life and that he is no longer with us gives it a greater sense of meaning for me. Ola Rosling and Anna Rosling Ronlund, Hans' son and daughter-in-law, are co-founders of the Gapminder Foundation, and Ola is director from 2005 to 2007 and from 2010 to the present day. After Google acquired Trendalizer, the bubble chart tool invented and designed by Anna and Ola, Ola became head of Google's public data team, and Anna became the team's senior user experience. Goodbye. Speaking of endings, my colleague has decided to leave, and it was a sudden thing, and he is moving to a different part of Japan, and I only learned last week, and his office was packed up today, and he just waved goodbye to me and ran away. Quite sad. Nice fellow. I think he had a family emergency or some kind of change in situation. He didn't, even though we're very friendly, he didn't explain it to me. which is fine, private lives and whatnot. So I guess that they are pretty rich, these two, because they're, if you listen to what I said, their company was acquired by Google, and then one of them worked for Google. It sounds like, the makings of a very rich couple. Okay, well, I'll just go through that one more time. Ola became head of Google's public data team, and Anna became the team's senior user experience UX designer. They have both received international awards for their work. So the full title, or title with subtitle of this, is Factfulness, 10 Reasons We're Wrong About the World and Why Things Are Better Than You Think. Even hearing the title of this, it reminds me of some of the work of Steven Pinker, the renowned psychologist, who in interviews has said that if you look at the news, you think that the world is in its worst condition that it's ever been. But if you actually look at the facts of things, it's the best it's ever been in terms of how many people in the world are educated, how many people in the world are lifted out of poverty, how long people can live, how healthy people can live. So, yeah, if you watch the news all the time, you're depressed. But if you look at some of the facts, then maybe it will be somewhat heartening, somewhat encouraging, and thus the title, Factfulness. Factfulness. So let's give it a go. It's getting a bit cold in here. I turned off the heater because the heater is noisy, and I didn't want to have it interfere with this video. So there's a dedication. I don't know, for my language learning friends and students. A dedication is when you write a book, there are a couple of benefits, a couple of perks that you get with that. One, if you're J.K. Rowling, you'll become very rich. But another is that you can use one of the first pages of the book to give thanks and love to people that you're thankful to and to whom you feel love and affection and appreciation. To the brave barefoot woman whose name I don't know, but whose rational arguments saved me from being sliced by a mob of angry men with machetes. Wow, that is a very intense. To the brave barefoot woman whose name I don't know, but whose rational arguments saved me from being sliced by a mob of angry men with machetes. I don't know if he's speaking metaphorically or if he was actually in a case when there was a mob. Mob is a large group of people, usually out of control. We don't usually have a happy mob. We have expressions like angry mob or an out of control mob or mob situation. We have to be careful because there's also a flash mob, which is a kind of modern art thing where a bunch of people come together quickly and do some kind of performance art piece and then disappear. But mostly when we talk about mobs, it's not good. And then there's a secondary bad meaning of mob, which is short for mobster and has to do with gangsters. So if you say someone's in the mob or they owe money to the mob, it means to mafia in America or some other organized crime group. So, contents, author's notes, introduction, and then we have 11 chapters, an outro, an appendix, a list of sources, biographical notes, and index. So, the 11 chapter titles are as follows. Chapter 1, The Gap Instinct. So maybe that has something to do with why the foundation is called the Mind the Gap. Chapter 2, The Negativity Instinct. Chapter 3, The Straight Line Instinct. Chapter 4, The Fear Instinct. Chapter 5, The Size Instinct. Chapter 6, The Generalization Instinct. Chapter 7, The Destiny Instinct. I'm seeing a pattern, a lot of instincts going on here. Chapter 8, The Single Perspective Instinct. Chapter 9, The Blame Instinct. Chapter 10, The Urgency Instinct. Chapter 11, Factfulness in Practice. So only one of the 11 chapters is not named after an instinct. And then there's another section which isn't listed as a chapter, but it's just Factfulness Rules of Thumb. Factfulness Rules of Thumb. So we're at 10 minutes now. So maybe on the video I'll say, getting to reading, I'll give a time code when you can get to it. But there's an author's note now. Factfulness is written in my voice, as if by me alone, and tells many stories from my life. But please don't be misled. Just like the TED Talks and lectures I've been giving all over the world for the past 10 years, this book is the work of 3 people, not one. I'm usually the front man. I stand on stage and deliver the lectures. I receive the applause. But everything you hear in my lectures and everything you read in this book is the output of 18 years of intense collaboration between me, my son, Ola Rosling, and my daughter-in-law, Anna Rosling Romland. In 2005, we founded the Gapminder Foundation with a mission to fight devastating ignorance with a fact-based worldview. I brought energy, curiosity, and a lifetime of experience as a doctor, a researcher, and a lecturer in global health. Ola and Anna were responsible for the data analysis, inventive visual explanations, data stories, and simple presentation design. It was their idea to measure ignorance systematically. And they designed and programmed our beautiful animated bubble charts. Dollar Street, a way of using photographs as data to explain the world, was Anna's brainchild. While I was getting ever angrier about people's ignorance about the world, Ola and Anna instead took the analysis beyond anger and crystallized the humble and relaxing idea of factfulness. Together we defined the practical thinking tools that we present in this book. What you're about to read was not invented according to the lone genius stereotype. It is instead the result of constant discussion, argument, and collaboration between three people with different talents, knowledge, and perspectives. This unconventional, often infuriating, but deeply productive way of working has led to a way of presenting the world and how to think about it that I never could have created on my own. Wow, that's very powerfully written. The introduction has a photo of an x-ray of a sword swallower, and that is one story that my wife told me from the Japanese version. I think she maybe only read a few pages, but yeah, she talks specifically about an anecdote of a sword swallower. So, let me see how long the introduction is. So we have, if I'm honest, just a couple more minutes to make this a 15-minute endeavor. So I'm just going to read the introduction, and that'll be the end of it for this video. Introduction. Why I love the circus. I love the circus. I love to watch a juggler throwing screaming chainsaws in the air, or a tightrope walker performing 10 flips in a row. I love the spectacle and the sense of amazement and delight at witnessing the seemingly impossible. When I was a child, my dream was to become a circus artist. My parents' dream, though, was for me to get the good education they never had, so I ended up studying medicine. Sorry, it really is cold in here. One afternoon at medical school, in an otherwise dry lecture about the way the throat worked, our professor explained, if something is stuck, the passage can be straightened by pushing the chin bone forward. To illustrate, he showed an x-ray of a sword swallower in action. I had a flash of inspiration. My dream was not over. A few weeks earlier, when studying reflexes, I had discovered that of all my classmates, I could push my fingers farthest down my throat without gagging. At the time, I had not been too proud. I didn't think it was an important skill, but now I understood its value, and instantly my childhood dream sprang back to life. I decided to become a sword swallower. My initial attempts were encouraging. I didn't own a sword, so used a fishing rod instead. But no matter how many times I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and tried, I'd get as far as an inch and it would get stuck. Eventually, for a second time, I gave up on my dream. I have to pause for a moment to say, I would never imagine anyone sticking something that far down their throat, especially a fishing rod. Why? Fishing rod sounds dirty, even if it's just from a factory. I wouldn't want to put that in my throat. Did he sterilize it first? Did he clean it thoroughly first? It kind of blows my mind that someone would ever do that. Yeah, I don't like germs and dirty things much, but it just sounds like a kind of crazily reckless thing to do. And this was a person who was going to medical school, so I'm quite amazed by Hans Rosling. He's either very brave or very foolhardy. 3 years later, I was a trainee doctor on a real medical ward. One of my first patients was an old man with a persistent cough. I had always asked what my patients did for a living, in case it was relevant, and it turned out he used to swallow swords. Imagine my surprise when this patient turned out to be the very same sword swallower from the x-ray. And imagine this, when I told him all about my attempts with the fishing rod, "Young doctor," he said, "don't you know the throat is flat? You can only slide flat things down there. That is why we use a sword." That night after work, I found a soup ladle with a straight, flat handle and immediately resumed my practice. Hans Rosling was crazy. No offense, Hans Rosling, but I can't imagine just sticking random things down my throat. I was excited, but being a soup ladle shaft swallower was not my dream. The next day, I put an ad in the local paper, and soon I had acquired what I needed: a Swedish army bayonet from 1809. So he's got an actual weapon, and he's going to put it down his throat. Oh my goodness. As I successfully slid it down my throat, I felt both deeply proud of my achievement and smug that I had found such a great way to recycle weapons. So funny. Sword swallowing has always shown that the seemingly impossible can be possible, and inspired humans to think beyond the obvious. Occasionally, I demonstrated this ancient Indian art at the end of one of my lectures on global development. I step up onto a table and rip off my professorial checked shirt to reveal a black vest top decorated with a gold sequined lightning bolt. I call for complete silence, and to the swirling beat of a snare drum, I slowly slide the army bayonet down my throat. I stretch out my arms. The audience goes wild. So he gets to live his dream of being a circus performer, but he's actually